Hi everyone, Bill Rentschler in the 1011 Now streaming studio, joined alongside by Madison Pitsch, our anchor. It is primary election night 2024, and we're going to break down the results that we have in so far. Want to just tell everyone as we start off, again, election nights can be kind of crazy. Numbers still coming in.
Yes.
And I don't know if anyone knows this, but again, for all the times that you may have seen me in the streaming studio, this monitor behind us is actually a touch screen. And so we're breaking out the touch screen, channeling our inner Steve Kornacki from CNN, who breaks down the all the results from the touch board. So a lot of results to go through. We have, again, statewide races, both for federal seats, lots of local races as well, legislative seats. And as we go over the next 10 or 15 minutes or so here, we're going to break it all down.
Yeah, so what we're going to see is the early votes coming in. This is the first draft. We usually get a couple throughout the evening. So what we're going to go through is obviously the first iteration of votes. Might not be the last.
Yes, and so again, you'll notice here again the reporting numbers up here on your screen. So again, right now what we have on the screen is the Democratic candidate for president, and again, about 50% reporting according to the AP. Again, the Secretary of State's numbers may look a little different.
The AP and the Secretary of State do it a little bit differently. AP counts votes differently than the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State counts precincts, and precincts is a lot easier to understand. So, Bill, you're going to be on top of our precinct reporting numbers.
Okay, I'll do my best. Again, I'll do my best. This is one of my first election nights in a long time, kind of doing things like this. So again, bear with us as we said. So let's go ahead and jump in. Again, a couple things just kind of right off the bat, low-hanging fruit, nothing really surprising here. But again, as far as for the presidential candidate for, the Democratic Party, it was, again, obviously Joe Biden, current president, versus Dean Phillips. Which, again, anecdotally, I know I have a lot of friends and family who decided to go that direction. And so, obviously, more of a protest vote more than anything else. But Joe Biden obviously is going to be the pick for Nebraska.
Yep, he scoops up the primary with 93% of the total vote, which is obviously not surprising.
And so
the AP has already called this one, and this race also the Republican primary. Donald Trump winning with 70% of the total vote. I did look it up. Nikki Haley obviously is no longer running for president, but she did leave the race at a time where she did qualify to be on some ballots. So she was on the ballot here. 31% of Lancaster County voted for Haley. 65% went for Trump.
And that's interesting. And again, this is something that we've kind of seen. Again, if you follow primaries at all over the course of the last several weeks, again, Donald Trump has obviously been the only candidate left in the field for the Republicans. But many people, again, still kind of filing, like I said, with the Dean Phillips, maybe that little bit of a protest vote for Nikki Haley.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Perry Johnson, he gave it a good run.
2%
of the total.
Yeah, again, the AP has called this for the presidential roles for Democratic and Republican sides. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, moving on to the general in November.
All right, and so then as far as Senate seats, again, both Senate seats this year, again, going to have an election in the state again. Yes. It's a little unique, though, because, again, a couple years ago you had Ben Sass retire, and then the new governor, Jim Pillen, appoints the former governor, Pete Ricketts.
Yes, so Ben Sass resigned. So what they're running for here, normally a Senate seat would be a 6-year spot. They're running for a 2-year to fill out the rest of Ben Sass's term. So Pete Ricketts is the incumbent. He was appointed right after he gave up the governor job by the new governor, Jim Pillen. He's walking away with 75% of the total vote in this one. Something you're going to notice with a lot of these races, especially with Nebraska's congressional delegates, they're all Republican. None of them received the endorsement from the NEGOP, and none of them sought endorsement from the NEGOP. This is one of the first times there's been kind of a rift in the state GOP. So the NEGOP actually supported John Weaver in this race. Still incumbent Senator Pete Ricketts.
And it sounds like the Nebraska GOP didn't really support any of the incumbent Republicans who were on the ticket, which is an interesting sort of
it's definitely a
sidebar in this election cycle.
Yeah, definitely a break from the norm. Not unexpected that Senator Ricketts is walking away with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, that right now, again, that's 20% of precincts reporting. And again, Senator Pete Ricketts, current Senator Pete Ricketts, again, already declared the incumbent in that race. He will face off against Democrat Preston Love Jr.
Yes.
out of Omaha.
Yes. Preston Love Jr. is the only Democrat in the race, so he obviously advances
Mm-hmm.
to the general election in November.
And so then that's the one Senate race. The second Senate race, this is for a full 6-year term. This is Senator Deb Fischer's seat, incumbent.
Yes.
And again, she walks away with a pretty easy victory
Yeah, so
tonight.
Deb Fischer's been in the Senate since 2012. She was also not endorsed by the NEGOP. Erin Kowalski, also a Republican, not endorsed by the NEGOP in this race. She walks forward toward the November general election with 79% of the total votes. She's also facing a couple of people in the Legal Marijuana Now campaign. Carrie Eddy, a former Nebraska Air National Guard vet, and Kenneth Peterson. Carrie Eddy wins 75% of the Legal Marijuana Now vote. There is also no Democrats in this race.
And it's been an interesting, again, I've heard from friends and family, again, depending on how you're registered, you're either going to get a Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot. And again, if you were a registered Democrat, the Democratic ballot was a little bit light because there weren't any candidates in several of these races. Again, in the Preston Love Jr. case, again, he's the only one, so he's automatically going to advance to the general election.
Yeah, so Deb Fischer has already sent out a thank you to Nebraska primary voters. I have it here on my phone. She says, "My heartfelt thanks to the Republican primary voters of Nebraska for their overwhelming vote of trust and confidence. Tonight's results are clear evidence of the energy and momentum our campaign has in all 93 counties." She says, "I am especially grateful for all the friends and volunteers who have joined me in doing the hard but rewarding work of spreading our message across Nebraska. Finally, together we will fight to secure the border, give working families back the opportunity to achieve the American dream, support our veterans, and keep America safe." So, pretty decisive.
Yes, and so Deb Fischer, and again, for the Democrats in this race, again, the Nebraska Democratic Party has not actually endorsed anyone yet. If you look it up on their website, they say that they have an endorsement announcement that's coming soon, and that would likely be the primary challenger to Deb Fischer in November, along with, again, whoever wins the Legalized Marijuana Now primary between Carrie Eddy and Kenneth Peterson. So again, that's Senate.
Yep.
So now we're going to jump over to, again, still sticking with some federal elections here. Congressional districts, again, 3 congressional districts. Again, the Senate, you have the 6-year term. You know, it's kind of can be staggered a little bit. Congress, it's every 2 years. These guys feels like they get elected, they spend a year in Congress, and then all of a sudden they're campaigning again for another year.
It might be good to actually take a look at the congressional maps right now,
Yeah.
if you want. So we're talking about CD1 right now, which includes Lancaster County. So all of this green is CD3. So when you look on Adrian Smith's website, he says he covers from the Missouri River to the Wyoming border, which is quite a lot. And you can really see where the population is covered here. So red is CD1, that includes Lancaster County. Blue is CD2, that's Douglas, Saunders, Sarpy. And green is everybody else.
I don't know, as far as congressional districts go. I would have to imagine Adrian Smith probably has, CD3 is probably the largest, if not one of the largest congressional districts in the country.
I'd be curious.
I would say it's probably behind Wyoming. Again,
Might be.
each state gets
This
their
is all conjecture.
electoral votes. You know, you get 2 for your 2 senators, then however many congressional districts. So again, Nebraska has 5 electoral votes. Wyoming only has 3, so they have 2 U.S. senators, only 1 representative that covers the entire state of Wyoming. So again, I'm assuming that's number 1, but I would
He's in the
wager
running.
that this could be at least
For
number
sure.
2.
For
So you mentioned it again. We'll zoom in here. This is congressional district number
Yep,
1. This
so-
is incumbent Mike Flood's district.
So this is where we're going to be talking about Lincoln right here in the district, represented currently by Mike Flood, who kind of had a big election year in 2022. You'll remember Representative Jeff Fortenberry got in trouble with the law, so they had a special election in, my notes say, July of 2022. He won that special election against Patty Penzing Brooks and then beat her again in the general in November. So he's the incumbent in this race. Definitely not new to the campaign trail is what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of
Yeah.
campaigning. And Madison, while I have you real quick, I'm going to ask you to maybe just adjust your mic so it's pointed a little up so we can make sure we can hear you, okay?
Yeah,
It's-
the people need to hear me.
The people do need to hear you. The mic should be on. Again, this is why we said to bear with us. Again, this is live television or live streaming not necessarily on-air television, but again, we don't break out the touchboard often. It's usually only twice a year during election time.
Yeah.
So, but again, back to CD1 here. Again, incumbent Mike Flood, he was facing off against Republican Michael Connolly. And again, Mike Flood also was not endorsed by the Nebraska GOP.
Yep. No one was endorsed by the Nebraska GOP on the Republican ticket. Mike Flood obviously walking away with a decisive 80% of total votes reporting right now. Looks like he's been declared the winner of this race. So decisive win again on the Republican front there.
And if we look at District 2, which again, I'm going to punch up District 2 again here, because District 2, again, if you're in Lincoln, if you're watching again in Lancaster County, this is not our congressional district. This covers Saunders County, Douglas County, and then western parts of Sarpy County. So again, this is the Omaha Metro, and this is represented by incumbent Don Bacon, who was elected back in 2017, I believe.
Yes, long-standing representative of CD2.
And so he was facing off against Dan Fry, and again, he's already been declared the winner of that primary
With
race.
70% of the total vote, which is...
He will have his seat, again, if you're a little bit of a politics junkie, his seat is always one of those toss-up, maybe it's a lean R one year, a lean D the next year again, with kind of the purpleness of Sarpy County and the Omaha Metro.
Yeah.
And so then you go to District 3, which again we talked about, Adrian Smith's district, which is almost the entire state.
Yep.
And again, he's been in Congress, I believe, since 2007.
Yeah.
So he's been there for a long time.
Yeah, and again, another incumbent who was not endorsed by the NEGOP. John Walls actually won that endorsement.
And so just 7% of the precincts being reported right now. So again, no winner declared yet in this race, but again, Adrian Smith does have 74% of the vote total thus far. You would have to think with his record, again, winning a lot of elections over the past almost 2 decades now, he's probably safe in that seat, but again, that is something we'll continue to watch as we head through this evening. Forgot to mention, in CD2, Don Bacon will likely face off against Democrat Tony Vargas in the general election in November.
And in CD1, it will be Carol Flood in November.
Carol Blood.
Excuse me, Carol
We're going to do that so many times between now and November. Again, Carol Blood versus Mike Flood. So that will be interesting. But the Democrats do have a race in District 3, and it's David Else versus Daniel Ebers. And again, just 15% of the vote in, and that's the closest race we've had up on the board so far.
It is. Yes, you're right. 51% of the vote to 48% of total vote. The AP does say 15% reporting, so we still have a ways to go on that one.
Still have a ways to go on that one. So that covers it for our statewide federal seats. We're going to take a real quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some legislative races as well as a bond issue as well.
Yep.
So stick with us. We'll be right back in just a minute. Okay, so far? Do we like what we're doing? Okay. Kind of a politics junkie, but there's usually not less talk though when it comes to Nebraska politics.
Two thumbs up. We're the same people. You're gonna win no matter what.
I can do a bit of a welcome back, explain legislature.
Yeah. We'll have the and I've got your mic jack as high as it can go. I think it's just because it kind of points down.
Mics were designed by men. I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Welcome back. We are so happy to have you here in the 1011 Now streaming studio. Obviously, I haven't been doing this a lot. I was looking at the wrong camera window.
There's two cameras. You had a 50-50 chance,
Yep, I
so
sure
it's
did.
okay.
So we're going to be talking about Nebraska legislative races today. The interesting thing about Nebraska legislature, loved it when I moved here, these races are nonpartisan. So the top 2 vote getters in each district will move on to the general election in November.
Also, a nonpartisan unicameral. So, again, on your ballot, you don't see Republican or Democrat. Obviously, most of these candidates are endorsed by
Sure.
one party or the other. And again, what we have here punched up on the screen, again, is the map of the Nebraska legislative districts. Again, with how big the state is, some of them are pretty easy to
They
spot
sure
and
are,
point
yeah.
out. But with some of the races that we're going to talk about, you have to kind of get into the nitty gritty. So we're going to talk about 3 in particular: Legislative District 21, 25, 27. So Madison, walk us through. This is Legislative District 21.
Yeah, LD 21 is repped by Bo Ballard. It is northwest Lincoln and northern Lancaster County. Bo Ballard was appointed by Governor Pillen in December to replace Mike Hilgers. So he is trying to defend his seat today.
And so again, on the screen here, this sort of darker area, again, that's kind of the northern and western sections of Lincoln. You also have areas like Malcolm, Raymond, Davie, and then back towards Waverly. So again, it's kind of the northern, almost maybe say third of Lancaster County, and then kind of as you get on the western side of Lancaster County, say maybe the top half of it. And so again, you get a chunk there of western Lincoln. So that's 21. And then if you go to 25, you kind of get the other half of Lincoln minus a sliver.
So 25 is southeastern Lincoln and eastern Lancaster County, and right now they're represented by Carolyn Bozen, who was also appointed by Governor Pillen to replace Suzanne Geist. She's a former deputy Lancaster County attorney. So she is also, what's really interesting about this race is that Bo Ballard, Carolyn Bozen both have time in the unicameral, but this is really their first time running for their own seat. So that's what we're looking to see. Will they continue that forward into the next session? Or is someone else going to take it?
And so again, this darker area you see here. So again, this kind of top corner is 70th Street, and then you got Pioneers, 56th, and then Old Cheney down to South 40th Street. So again, it's kind of the southeastern section of Lincoln. The orange line you see here, that is Highway 2, Nebraska Highway 2. And so this also includes Bennett, and again, kind of the eastern half of Lancaster County. And so then, just to make things even more confusing, this is Legislative District 27, which is kind of a sliver right up into kind of central Lincoln. It follows kind of the Highway 77 corridor.
Yep, so southwestern Lincoln, southwestern Lancaster County.
Yes.
If I have my
Your
senses about me.
geography is correct.
Yeah,
I can
so
confirm
this
that.
race, it'll be between Jason Prokop and Don Liphart. They're only 2 people, so they both get to advance too.
So there you go. So again, like Madison just mentioned, with these legislative seats, it's the top 2 vote getters that are going to go to the general. So if we punch up District 21, 45% of the precincts being reported right now, votes reporting, and right now, sort of a tight race, but Bo Ballard and Seth Durner, who I believe was endorsed by the Nebraska GOP, if I remember correctly. No, he's a Democrat.
I don't think he was.
We're not sure? We're not sure. Okay. I'll have to check my notes on that one. No, I don't have that in my notes.
Yeah.
So I'm just making stuff up as I go along. But Bo Ballard, like you said, is the incumbent, and right now he is the lead vote getter in that race.
Yeah, 47% of the total. Again, he's the incumbent. This is really his first election for that district. So
25, which again we mentioned, Carolyn Bozen is the incumbent, and she was appointed by Governor Pillen. And again, her right, and Nikki Bamer Pop.
yeah, this one is neck and neck. So Carolyn Bozen is the incumbent. Again, running for the first time to represent her district. Right now she's got 47% of total votes. Nikki Bamer Pop is actually out on top with 49% of the votes in total. We actually have our reporters Chanel Taylor McCarthy and Samantha Burnt at this race and at the race, or at the watch party for districts 21 and 25.
So we will probably see some
We will
more
have a lot more about this.
race coming up tonight at 10, which is going to be about an hour and change. So you want to make sure you stay tuned for that. And then 27, like we mentioned, which is kind of the southwestern kind of part of town, Highway 77 corridor. Pretty easy race for Jason Prokop as well as Don Liphart, because they both will advance, because there was 2 people in that race.
Yep. Jason Prokop taking 61% of the total votes. Don Liphart 38% of total votes so far.
Okay, so that covers, again, there are more, obviously more legislative seats that are up for election tonight. But again, those are the ones basically covering Lincoln and Lancaster County. Again, you can find all the election results for your legislative seat on 1011now.com. So again, that's going to be a useful place for you to go check out some additional vote results. State Board of Education, Madison, walk us through this one.
So this is also a nonpartisan race. Liz Davids and Kristen Christensen are both running for a seat on the Nebraska State Board to represent District 1. It's currently held by Patsy Cook Johns, who is the incumbent and not seeking re-election. This is Lincoln and Lancaster County. Both candidates will advance the general election.
So there you go. So both.
Looking at the numbers now, Kristen Christensen up with a good percentage of the vote, 64% of total votes reporting so far.
And so you'll see both of those ladies on the ballot come this November in the general. Kind of a hot button, Nebraska Board of Regents, kind of with everything that happened with Trev Alberts and all that, which feels like forever ago now. But a couple seats up for grabs for the Nebraska Board of Regents. And this is going to be an interesting race because it's pretty tight between the three gentlemen we have here on the board.
Yes, Jerome Woleb and Gary Rogge are both trying to take Rob Schaefer's seat for District 5. It represents, I have it down here, I'm going to need to take a second to read it. Southern Lancaster County and Seward, Saline, Jefferson, Thayer, Gage, Johnson, Pawnee, Richardson, Nemaha, Odo, and Cass. So a lot of southeastern Nebraska is what they're running to represent. Again, Rob Schaefer, incumbent, 44% of total votes that have come in so far.
And so we'll keep an eye on that. Again, just 2% reporting right now. So again, these votes will continue to grow as more results continue to fall in. Also, again, a local issue, a bond issue. The Waverly School District in need of some facility updates and repairs.
Yeah.
And they're looking at maybe tacking on some property tax.
Yeah, so this is the first time I have actually seen this, so that I'm taking this in with you guys for the first time too. Waverly School District was asking for $89.9 million to address issues in their building. So they were talking about attacking capacity issues at the high school and middle school. They said there were significant costs to try and keep outdated heating and cooling systems operational. They wanted to build entrances and security systems that they don't have today. And they also say their current facilities limit program offerings like ag, trades, fine arts, special ed, early childhood, health, college, and career. So the bond issue was for $89.9 million. The district said it would be a net tax levy of 12.8 cents per $100 of valuation. And I was really interested to see how this would be turning out because obviously property tax has been a huge issue for all Nebraskans. So I was interested to see how the vote would split for this one.
Not a lot of numbers in just yet, but again, 66% against, 33% for. Again, this would add, you mentioned the 12.8 cents per $100 valuation. So if you were to take a house valued at $300,000, which is kind of hard to find that nowadays, that's a whole other issue. But that homeowner would pay an additional about $385 a year if this were to pass. Again, these are always tough issues, again, especially revolving schools. But anytime you mix kind of schools and taxes, people get heated on either side of that
and this
issue.
affects voters in that school district. So I think it's about 4 counties that are affected. 4 people, or people in 4 separate counties that were looking at
So it's
this.
probably going to be part of Lancaster, Saunders, maybe even Cass and Odo as well. I'd have to look up exactly what the other 2 counties would be. So again, that covers kind of all the races of high interest, at least for the local area, again, here in Lincoln and Lancaster County. We're going to go through everything again just one more time, so in case you just joined halfway through, something like that, again, we won't go quite as deep of a dive on the second go-around. But again, for all the election results, again, you can find those on 1011now.com. And again, Madison and Cole are going to have all the latest coming up in just a little over an hour at 10 o'clock news coming up tonight at 10. So I'm going to jump back here, Madison. We're going to get the low-hanging fruit. Democratic candidate for president, obviously incumbent Joe Biden. Dean Phillips was the only other Democrat that I know of that really tried to mount any kind of serious challenge, I guess, against Joe Biden, at least in the Democratic Party. RFK not on the ballot in Nebraska for any kind of primary.
Yep, so the AP has already called this race Joe Biden kind of cruising to November with 93% of total votes so far.
So it's just under 47,000 to about 3,200 thus far. That is a pretty wide margin. And again, the margin wide, but not quite as wide on the Republican side, with former President Trump, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, and I believe Perry Johnson, if I remember correctly, is a businessman who tried to run for Republican president.
Yeah, so the AP's already called this one as well. Donald Trump moving forward to the November general election with 71% of the total votes here in Nebraska so far. If you see, the AP says there's 20% reporting, so there's still a lot more to count there. Nikki Haley did make it on the ballot, even though she dropped out in March. Again, I checked the Lancaster County numbers. 31% of voters, Republican voters, went for Haley in this primary.
And it will be interesting to see where that number finishes tonight.
I agree.
Again, sort of a protest vote for people who may be disenfranchised with the former president. Nikki Haley's probably going to get a decent amount of votes. She has been, even though, again, she dropped out of the primary a number of weeks ago. So, again, that's as far as the presidential race, that's what that looks like. 2 Senate races open. Again, a 2-year term, which is to finish Ben Sass's term. He's now the president of the University of Florida.
Correct.
Been in the news recently with, again, some of the issues on college campuses and stuff like that. But Pete Ricketts, former governor, was appointed by the new governor, Jim Pillen, to fill that seat, and he wins his race in the primary
Yeah,
tonight.
pretty decisively, even without the endorsement from the NEGOP. John Weaver was actually the candidate endorsed by the NEGOP. John Weaver walks away with 15% of total votes. Max Stevens, 7% of total votes. AP says 26%.
And he will face, Madison, remind me again, who will be the Democratic opponent for Senator Ricketts come November? Preston Love? Preston Love Jr.
Yeah.
Out of Omaha. Again, seen a lot of his campaign. It's right on the spot. So yeah, that's 1 Senate seat, just a 2-year term. The other Senate seat is for a full term. Again, this is Senator Fisher's seat. Again, this would be her 3rd term in office if she's reelected.
Yep, she's been in office since 2012 is what my notes say. Again, not endorsed by the NEGOP. Aaron Kowalski, Republican, also not endorsed by Nebraska GOP. Deb Fisher, 79% of total votes with 26% reporting according to AP. So she's already been declared winner. She sent out an acceptance and a thanks speech. So she will be moving forward. There are no Democrats in this race, so she will not go against a Democrat in November, but there is legal marijuana now. Carrie Eddy with 76% of the total votes there, 338 votes. Kenneth Peterson with 23%. Nobody's called this yet. It's 2% reporting per AP.
And so this will be, again, in November, this will be kind of a 3-party race between Republicans, Democrats, and the Legal Marijuana Now party. So again, whoever comes away from here, we're still waiting from the Nebraska Democrats to kind of hear who they're going to put up in this race. Again, if you check,
if they will put someone.
If they will put anyone up, they undoubtedly will put someone up. But again, if you go to their website and check it out, they got a kind of a, endorsement announcement coming soon. So again, we may find out in the next several weeks who that person is. And so they will run against Senator Fisher and either Carrie Eddy or Kenneth Peterson. Congressional districts, again, 1, 2, and 3. Again, this is mostly, again, Republicans running. Again, we just have one Democratic race for congressional seats. Mike Flood, the incumbent, who you mentioned earlier, replaced Jeff Fortenberry, I believe, in 2001, and then had to win that race.
Yeah, he won a special election and then won a general, all in 2022. So it was a lot of campaigning. So I'm sure he's grateful to be back on the campaign trail. And,
yes.
He's got 80% of total votes.
So it will be Flood versus Blood in November. Carol Blood out of Omaha, who's going to be running for that seat. And again, I'm going to punch up just so everyone who might have missed it. This is Congressional District number 1. So this covers Lincoln and Lancaster County, Cass County just to our east, parts of Sarpy County just to the south of Omaha, and then kind of up towards Seward, David City, and then kind of up towards Columbus, West Point, Madison, and those areas. So that's my flood seat.
As far as Tilden, Meadow Grove, Battle Creek.
And so this is Congressional District 2. So this is incumbent Don Bacon's seat. This covers obviously the Omaha Metro as well as Saunders County and the Wahoo area. Again, this is a very purple seat, Madison.
Yes,
so Don Bacon winning his primary fairly easily against Dan Fry, but he will have a highly contested race come November.
Yeah, he will be squaring off with Tony Vargas
Mm-hmm.
in November. So Don Bacon was 66% of the total votes, and obviously he's been in the seat for quite a time.
Since 2017, I believe. So again, this I believe going to be his 5th or 6th time, I think, going for U.S. District 2. Again, the seat that covers much of Omaha. Adrian Smith, he's been in Congress since 2007. He's been there a long time. Covers a huge swath of the state of Nebraska. Basically everything that's not in and around Lincoln or Omaha. It's Adrian Smith's district. And again, race not called yet, but he has 74% of the total right now.
Yes, yeah, with about 11% reporting, according to AP. So Adrian Smith looking good in this race.
And so really,
70%.
again, one of the only, I think if not the only, statewide Democratic race
in District 3.
is in District 3. David Elsey, not 100% sure on the pronunciation there, and Daniel Ebers. And again, that's still a tight race, still just 21% of the vote in on that race. So we'll keep a close eye on that.
Really close, 51 to 48. So.
And let's see if I can do some quick math.
Oh,
that's like 149 vote difference, I believe.
Yeah.
Someone might have to check now. I'm pretty sure it's 140.
Whatever.
So again, that is kind of statewide congressional or Senate races. If we dive down again to the legislature races, which again there are a number of them, again for at least locally here in Lincoln and Lancaster County, this is District 21, Bo Ballard, the incumbent. Race not called yet, almost 50% of the vote in, and he has a decent lead there. Top 2 vote getters will go on to the general in November.
Yeah, important to point out, Bo Ballard was appointed by Governor Pillen in December to replace Mike Hildress, who went to be the state's Attorney General. So this is Bo Ballard's first time running for the district that he's representing.
And the same is also true for District 25, which the incumbent right now is Carolyn Bozen. I should know that. And her and Nikki Bamer-Pop are currently in the top 2 spots in this race.
Yes, Carolyn Bozen was appointed by the governor in April to replace Suzanne Geist, who was focusing on her mayoral campaign.
Mm-hmm.
She's a former
And doesn't that
deputy.
just seem like forever ago that we had a mayor's race here in Lincoln? Jeez Louise.
Yeah, so Carolyn Bozen, the incumbent, with 47% of the total votes. Nikki Beamer-Pop jumped out to 49% of the total votes. So this is going to be a really close one to watch.
And we have reporters at each of these watch parties tonight,
We
is
have
that correct?
reporters at watch parties for District 21 and District 25.
And District 25, all right. And so in District 27, again, this covers kind of the southwestern sliver of Lincoln, kind of the Highway 77 corridor, down into parts of southern Lancaster County. Both Jason Prokop and Don Liphart are going to advance to the general in November. Again, top 2 candidates for the legislative districts automatically advance.
And the Nebraska legislature races are nonpartisan.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to see political affiliations on these. Top 2 vote getters move forward.
You won't see them on the ballot, at least, but you will find their affiliations on both the Nebraska GOP and Nebraska Democrat websites. State Board of Education District 1. Again, this is Kristen Christensen and Liz Davids. No, the race has not been called yet, but again, top 2 vote getters are going to go on in this. So again, you'll see both of these ladies in the general in November.
And they are running to represent District 1 for the State Board of Education. So that's Lincoln and Northwest Lancaster County. And they are running to replace Patsy Cook-Johns, who is the incumbent and not seeking re-election.
Decided not to run again. Nebraska Board of Regents, this is District 5. Madison, I made you read off all the counties that District 5 is last time, so I'll do it this
Would
time. Yeah, because it was a mouthful.
So
because
we've got Jerome Woleb and Gary Rogge running to take Rob Schaefer's seat on the Nebraska Board of Regents for District 5. Bill?
This
District
is
5.
Southern Lancaster, Seward, Saline, Jefferson, Thayer, Gage, Johnson, Pawnee, Richardson, Nemaha, Odo, and Cass
I bet that
counties.
feels like a tornado.
It does. Tornado watch for all these counties. No. That's the District 5 for the Nebraska Board of Regents. Again, I will continue to watch this race again. The Board of Regents has been an interesting board to follow over the past couple months with the search for the
It's been busy.
new president for the university and obviously with all the Trev Alberts issues that have happened as well. Waverly School District bond issue. Again, Madison, I made you read all this earlier, so I'm going to read it for you so you don't have to do it twice. This is an $89.9 million bond issue to address, quote, urgent facility needs. Corey Worrell, the superintendent of District 145 in Waverly, said the money is needed to help fix capacity issues at the high school and middle school. Significant cost to try and keep outdated heating and cooling systems operational, which again we know in the state of Nebraska, that's not something that you can really skimp on, especially when you have hundreds, if not thousands, of students in your building. Building entrances and security systems are not up to today's safety standards. And then current facilities limit program offerings such as classes in agriculture, trades, fine arts, special education, early childhood health, college, and career. So what we said was 12.8% or 12.8 cents per $100 of valuation on property tax valuation. So again, governor's trying to cut property taxes. This bond issue would actually raise property taxes for not everyone, but again for the people in the Waverly School District.
Yeah. And votes that have come in so far, 66% of the voters that have cast their ballot against the bond issue, 33% for. They're still obviously tallying votes on this one.
And so again, there's plenty more races, plenty more legislative districts, but again, these are kind of the big ones that we've been following, I guess, at least in our local area. Again, you can get complete election results if you go to 1011now.com. Again, you can follow on the rest of the night. Again, those results will update automatically throughout the night as we continue to get those results in. You and Cole are obviously going to have a big breakdown coming up. It's 8:55, so an hour and 5 minutes. I know you got to get ready for your show here. And then Madison, I punched it in there. General election, November 5th, 2024. It's 174 days away. So
it's quite a ways away, but
it is going to be a
it's gonna be here
sprint.
soon.
It is going to be a
Yeah.
sprint to get there because I can't tell you how many things my children are doing this summer, and I'm going to blink, and we're going to be school shopping and getting our new school uniforms and all the rest of it because my kids grow like weeds.
And then voting.
And then voting. And then voting. So, anything else before we let everyone go tonight?
I have nothing else.
Okay. Well, we appreciate everyone for tuning in, watching. Again, thanks for bearing with us. If we had any technological issues, again, the touch board, it's a finicky creature, and it doesn't get used very often. So appreciate everyone for tuning in, for watching. Again, as always, keep it tuned to 1011, both on air and online, for all of your latest election results and all of your latest news, weather, and sports. Hope everyone has a nice Tuesday evening.